It's NVHA 060019, our 218th interview overall. It's June the 28th, 2006, and we're in Mount Pleasant, South Carolina, at the home of Dick Whitaker. And first of all, I'd like to thank you for allowing us to come and do this interview.
You're welcome, Don.
Let's start out with your full name.
Richard Allen Whitaker.
Okay. Were you named after somebody in the family?
No, just something my mother and father thought sounded good.
Well, it does sound good. And what was your rank at discharge?
I was PFC.
Okay. Highest rank in the military, as far as I'm concerned. Well, Private Whitaker, what was your birthday?
3/13/26.
Okay. And where were you born?
Saugerties, New York.
Saugerties, New York. Where's Saugerties now?
100 miles up the Hudson River from New York City and 50 miles south of Albany.
Okay.
Small, 3,000 people.
Yeah. Didn't sound like a South Carolina accent to me. I thought.
No, I've been down here a few years, but I haven't picked up the accent yet.
Were you born in a hospital or at home?
At home, on my grandmother's couch.
Oh, really?
And this is a family joke. My mother almost died.
Ooh.
I think I weighed 12 pounds. I'm not sure of that, but I've heard that. And I asked my father once why I didn't have any brothers or sisters. And he said, well, when we were naming you, we thought of calling you Quits.
Well, we haven't got past the name. We already have a good story. Is the home still there?
No. We lived in a rented house. Well, at first we lived in an apartment over a candy store. And when I was 6, we moved into a large brick rented house. Okay. And my father never, he thought about buying a house many times, but never felt comfortable with a big mortgage. And so we always rented.
I can understand, especially for those times.
Well, the Depression hit Saugerties very hard. The paper mills closed down, and he was lucky to get 3 days a week of work. And in those days, 3 days, 3 8-hour days made you about 9 to 10, maybe $11. Yeah. That's tough going.
While we're on the subject of your mother having such a struggle with you, what was your mother's name?
Madeline.
Madeline?
Madeline.
And her maiden name?
Schoonmaker.
Schoonmaker.
And I recently traced the Schoonmaker family, my direct descendants, back to, I think it was 1663 in Albany, New York.
Okay.
And my father, I also traced that one back. And he goes back in about the same year, but further down from Albany, around Kingston, New York.
Okay.
But in both cases, I was doing a lousy job of genealogy research. But I stumbled on 2 people that had done both families. And I said, oh, good, send it to me.
Yes.
And I got it by email.
What would you tell folks about her? What was she like?
My mother?
Yes.
Oh, quiet, kind woman. Called me Richard. Did not work. My father always felt that he was the breadwinner, and even though times were tough, she didn't start working until, I was grown and away in the service, and somebody invited her to work in a dress shop. And she took that job just to make a few bucks.
It's the most important job a mother can have, is raising her children. And
yeah, she was a good mother, very good.
That's terrific. And your father, what was his name?
Cortland Irving Whitaker.
Okay.
And he died in 1962 of a blood clot. And I never thought he needed to die. He was under treatment for diabetes and taking a drug that 10 years after his death, excuse me, I read in I think the Wall Street Journal, that particular drug had been removed from the market for causing blood clots. It was sudden, He was rushed to the hospital and he was dead the next day.
Oh, my.
He was 62 years old.
Wow. Ouch.
Yeah.
It had to be a hard time for you and for your mom, too.
Oh, yeah. Especially my mother.
Sounded like he was a fairly hard-working fellow.
Oh, he was. Yeah. He worked in the paper mills, and when the cement industry recovered and came back in the Hudson Valley, he got a good job with the Lehigh Portland Cement Company. And for the first time in his life, made some big bucks. And, you know, new car and all of those things. But he was a fine man. Liked to fish and liked to hunt. Taught me to shoot and a lot of other stuff. It was a time when I was about 9 or 10 years old when I had 4 grandparents alive.
Wow.
And 2 great-grandparents alive, and I knew them all well. Yeah. And I didn't think that was unusual until in later life when I started comparing such information to people. I said, wow, 4 grandparents and 2 great-grandparents all alive at the same time? Yeah. So, anyway.
So you were going to nickname you Quits, so were you the only one, or did they?
I was the only one.
The only one. What did you think of being an only child? Was it, you kind of wish you would have had?
Oh, no. I think I understood. My mother's sister was married and had 7 children.
Okay.
And they only lived about 5 or 6 blocks from us, so I kind of grew up with them. I knew them all, and they were my brothers and sisters in a way. I knew that being the only child was, I was getting a little better break than my cousins. But kids don't think about things like that.
Yeah.
As long as you can run out and play with the gang, you know.
Sounds like you were in a small town surrounded by hills and woods, and was that the case? Or?
Well, I used to walk to go hunting.
Okay.
It would be a walk before I got out of the town limits, but that's kind of rare.
Yeah. It must have been a great adventure for a young boy to be able to have a place like that to play and to roam
Oh,
about.
you know, tree houses and huts built in the woods and boats that leak that you try to row up a creek and swimming all day, taking your lunch on your bike and riding a couple miles to get to the Sopus Creek, ice skating in the wintertime on the creek. My father had a brother that was lost in a skating accident when he was, I think, 10. They were out at night skating and he went through a hole in the ice.
Oh.
So.
Well, that'd be a heartbreaker.
Yeah.
That would be hard. How old were you when your dad first took you hunting?
Well, my first gun was a BB gun, and my grandfather, Whitaker, bought that for me for Christmas when I was about probably 8.
Okay.
And my father taught me how to first safely handle it, and then how to shoot it. Then he explained the penalties for doing anything wrong with it, which was you're never going to see it again. If you shoot a bird, your hunting career is over. Those were all valuable lessons. And then I guess my first rifle I bought was a .22. He gave me his shotgun. He was shot in a hunting accident and kind of gave it up. It wasn't a bad accident. The guy with him tried to cross a barbed wire fence with the gun and failed to open it. And the dog ran under the guy's legs and he fell and the gun went off. And most of the charge hit the dog, but my father got a dozen or so number 4s in his back. And it got his attention. And he decided that his hunting career was over. So I inherited a Crescent shotgun, which my father had won on a punch board.
Oh, really?
Wow.
Yeah.
That's a pretty good deal.
Those were the days when you could buy a fairly good shotgun for $50. And I maintain a lifelong interest in guns. I had quite a collection of antique guns, which I no longer have. But I still shoot. My wife and I both shoot skeet and sporting clays and really enjoy it. Great sports.
As a boy, did you have any jobs, newspaper route or anything like that?
First job was delivering newspapers. The Saugerties Daily Post, which was one of the last dailies, small town dailies in the United States. People referred to it as the Daily Disappointment. It was a town of 3,000 people. It doesn't generate much news on a 24-hour basis. But everyone wanted it, and if they didn't get it, if I didn't throw it and land on the porch, they would always call in the office and saying, you know, my paper got wet, and Whitaker's a terrible delivery boy. And my pay was 25 cents a day. I had 101 customers, and I had a good route. It was right down the main street of town. Took me about an hour to do it on a bike. 25 cents a day, $1.50 a week.
That's not bad money, though.
And the first thing I bought with my my wealth was an aluminum rowboat for $13, which gave us a lot of pleasure.
Oh, I can imagine. What about the downtown area? What sorts of businesses did they have?
Oh, the usual furniture store, florist, a 5 and 10, a place called the Candyland that had sandwiches and sodas, a couple of banks, a jewelry store, a hardware store, a news store, lots of magazines, papers, taxi stand. One taxi. That was about it. Oh, a couple of saloons.
Yeah.
That was about it. So it wasn't a lot there. I ride through some of these towns in South Carolina and up in Virginia where the coal mines went bad. It's like ghost towns. But my little hometown is still fairly vibrant because it enjoyed a spurt of popularity. I think the Woodstock concert helped put it on the map.
That's right.
And it's a beautiful part of the world.
Yeah.
And suddenly real estate. The house that I was raised in after the age of 6, a friend of mine that still lives there sent me a clipping from the paper. It just changed hands for $350,000.
Wow.
This is a small town. I didn't think there was a house in the whole town worth $350,000. It was a 3-story, 2-family house, divided down the middle, families on both sides. And my grandmother and grandfather lived upstairs, and we lived downstairs. And the ground floor, which was sub-basement, was a workshop. I raised chickens and rabbits and took care of them down there in the wintertime.
That was a nice situation too, when you had your grandparents living in part of the house. You had the advantage of having your grandparents. They had the advantage of having someone to kind of watch for them as they got older. And
I didn't know my father's parents very well. I used to go down there and see them, and they didn't live that far away. But living with my grandmother and grandfather, I really got to know them. And I was very, very fond of my grandfather. His name was David Schoonmaker. David DeWitt Schoonmaker. Actually descended from DeWitt Clinton. That's where they picked up the DeWitt from. He was a great man. He worked in a foundry, and a town called Quarryville is just outside of Saugerties, about 4 miles. And as you might guess, they quarried limestone.
okay.
I'm sorry, not limestone. The stone used for sidewalks. Bluestone? I've forgotten what it is.
I don't know.
Anyway, they used to bring that down to Saugerties by a team, and he drove the teams down. They brought it down to Saugerties and loaded it on barges and took it to New York, where they made sidewalks out of it.
Wasn't slate, was it?
No, it wasn't slate.
I didn't think they make.
Yeah.
I didn't think they used slate.
I've forgotten what it was. It was perhaps bluestone they called it. Anyway, he after that he became like a mason, putting the finishing touches on these things. And then he and my father worked as caretakers on a large estate. This was just before my grandfather retired from work. Anyway, he was a great man and great guy. I can remember him sending me over to Charlie Dale's saloon to get a pint of oysters. He loved oysters, and he would sit on the front porch and pop them.
And then you could do that.
That's right.
Yeah.
And I would go in Charlie Dale's, and everybody in Saugerties knew everyone else.
Right.
How's your grandfather, Richie? He's fine. What does he want? A pint of oysters. Okay. I'd put the money up in the bar and get the hell out of there.
Life was good. Life was better.
Right. Like Tom Sawyer, really. Honest to goodness. It was idyllic. And I hear stories from people that had unhappy childhoods. And I really feel bad for them because that's an important time in your life. And
It is.
if you're miserable, we all had our problems. A bully here and a teacher that didn't like you or something, but you roll with the punches. As long as you have a full stomach and a nice bed and good parents that are treating you well, you can do it.
We were both likely blessed the same way, and that was
Good.
Sure made a difference. Childhood heroes. Some fellows it would be aviators or baseball players. For others it might be someone in the community or family. Anybody special to you there?
Well, I think that would start off with the movies, and you see these bigger than life people like John Wayne and Tyrone Power. You were going to cast me as Tyrone Power in your movie, right?
Yeah.
Those make big impressions on kids from small towns. As far as the town itself, I remember a 6'6" policeman named Harold Mills, who really impressed me. He used to be directing traffic when I went to school every morning. I walked to school both ways. And when I went by, he'd say, "Hi, Richie. How's your dad?" And those contacts made it impossible in that town to really be bad because there was too many people that knew you and were watching. I snuck to the movie one Sunday night when I wasn't supposed to go to the movies, and an aunt saw me go in and she contacted my mother. I got in trouble for that, just going to the movies.
They knew it before you got there.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, before I even got in my seat. I think the word got back that I had spent 10 cents and going to see a movie at the Orpheum Theater. And then later on, when the war began, 1941, I was, 14 to 15 years old. And immediately, when the draft hit, I saw people disappear. And I would hear my mother and father talk about so-and-so's been drafted. And then right opposite our high school, they erected a sign, and they would put people's names on it as they went into service. And then a star was added if there was a casualty. And I watched that sign keep growing and growing and growing. And they finally, it got to the size of a 24-sheet poster that you would see along the highway.
Right.
And it had wings on it. They kept adding names.
Wow.
And I remember having the feeling that I would be very, very happy to have my name on that board. And it finally did. So my heroes were the guys I knew who went in the service. And some very close to me. I had a guy named Grant Ackert, a friend named Grant Ackert, who quit school and went in and was killed on Iwo in the 3rd Marine Division. And there were other, I was particularly interested in Marines for some reason. Anyway, I can't single out a single person who was a great hero to me. There were just many. When I came back from the service, a friend of mine, Ben Sanford, who had been a pistol champion shot in New York State, took me under his wing and taught me how to pistol shoot. And then we used to go up with that same cop, Harold Mills, up to the dump and shoot rats.
Yeah.
Not very refined way of putting it, but that's what we did. And the bigger the pile of rats you could get, the more successful you were. Sometimes you shot them with a flashlight held over your head like this.
My father-in-law done that.
There you go.
So where'd you go to school? Was it?
Saugerties High School.
Okay.
It was a school that combined K through 9 and then 9 through 12.
Okay.
In the same location, just quite slightly separate buildings.
Any teachers that you recall that stand out?
No, not really. I remember my kindergarten teacher, Miss Darling. I think I had a crush on her. But other than that, no. And there was a couple of people that were on my ass all the time.
Yeah.
I was identified as being capable but lazy.
Or where have I heard that?
Yeah, right. We did the Otis IQ test was done, and I just took it. And about 3 weeks later, I was told to report to the superintendent of schools, not the principal, the superintendent of schools office. His name was Morris. Anyway, I went down to Mr. Morris's office, and I knew what he had in his hand because I could tell it was the results. And he said, "I just wanted to look at you." I said, "You can go." Now, he can only have one thing on his mind. I must have done pretty well on that damn exam. But my grades didn't go up. I was, by the time I reached my third year of high school, I was so anxious to get in the service that I didn't care.
Yeah.
Never took a book home. Yeah. I used to do my homework in study halls, write my papers.
When you were in school, did you have any idea what you wanted to do afterwards?
No.
Just get out of school?
Not in the least. The prospects for making a living in those days was not very good. And my father was always insistent that I finish high school. And when I finally decided that I wanted to go in the Marine Corps and tried to enlist, I got into trouble for that because I wanted to go when I was 17. And they wouldn't sign for me. And that just kind of solidified my my position of being present but disgruntled. And I was probably a little difficult. But anyway, when it was, my birthday was on March 13th.
Okay.
And I would turn 18 on March 13th, 1944.
Oh.
And I would graduate in June of 1944. And I knew the minute I turned 18, I would get draft papers. And that's the way it happened. They wouldn't let me go in the Marine Corps. So I just sat around and graduated in mid-June. About a week later, I got my draft notice, and a week after that, I was on a bus headed for Albany, New York, where the induction center was. And I was standing in line with a bunch of other guys and went by the Marine Corps recruiting station, the office. And the guy was standing in the door, and he said, "Hey, what happened to you?" Because he was the guy that had interviewed me, and I had taken my physical and passed him. Right. And I said, they wouldn't sign. He said, "Well," he said, "you still want to be a Marine?" I said, "Yeah, I'd like to." He said, "Come in here." And I said, "But I'm about to be inducted in the Army." He said, "Don't worry about that. Let me worry about that." So there was another kid there with this, under the same set of circumstances. He had passed his physical, but his parents wouldn't sign. So now he had two of us. Closed the door, and we're saying we're going to be AOWL or whatever they call it, and the MPs are going to be after us. He said, "Don't worry." He gave us 2 tickets for a room in the YMCA and a couple of meal tickets, and he said, "Be back here tomorrow morning at 8 o'clock. Don't go out of your room. eat in the YMCA out of the vending machines.
Right.
Don't go out on the street, because I want you here at 8 o'clock. We're taking 2 Marines a day, and I'll swear you in. By 9 o'clock, I was on a train to Yamasee, South Carolina, and I had been sworn into the Marine Corps. Best thing that ever happened to me.
One bit of history I'd like to pick up here before we get too deep into the Corps. Pearl Harbor. How'd you hear about it?
Sitting in the living room, one of those big radios, floor models,
Yeah.
listening to Sunday morning news, and I didn't really understand. I was still pretty young, but sneak attack on Pearl Harbor. Later heard Roosevelt's address, and it really got my attention. We were at war, and I remember thinking, will I ever be involved in this? And I had no idea at the time this war could have lasted 30 days.
Right.
But it didn't. Other than that, just another chapter in a young boy's life. There was nothing I could do about it.
Right.
I was 14 years old, 13 or 14 years old. And, so it roused patriotism to levels hardly seen in this country since. People wanted to go. People were rushing down to recruiting stations and enlisting. And there were very few people that would be classified as draft dodgers in those days. And it was usually some person with a real hardship, where he had a family and 4 or 5 kids and a wife that didn't work, or a wife that was ill, and suddenly he gets a draft notice.
Yeah.
That's tough.
Right.
But that, as I say, that board opposite the high school kept growing and growing and growing. Our high school yearbooks, every year of the war, had a page, and the pages kept growing, of pictures of every man in service.
Wow.
The school invited people to send the pictures in. Everyone was labeled, and as I say, that kept growing and growing and growing. Finally, near the end, it included women who had gone in as nurses.
I'd like to see that happen today. That level of respect and support.
It's sad.
It is.
But the big difference is World War II was a good war. I mean, it wasn't hard, it wasn't difficult to get people riled up and want to fight. The problem was clear, the attack was unprovoked, and we were hot to trot. And the creation of the American war machine is a story all in itself. I mean, after a while, they were building ships in one day.
Yeah. Yeah.
Tanks rolling out of Detroit. You know, I have in the garage an entrenching tool, Marine Corps issue.
Right.
Every Marine gets one. Wear it on your back. And somebody, I was standing out in the yard talking to someone one day, and I had it in my hand. And he said, "What is that?" And I said, "It's a Marine Corps entrenching tool." And he asked me something about it, and I told him. And I said, "You know, as I stand there, I'd never thought about this before." I said, "This is a metaphor for the victory in the Pacific. Because we had so much steel and so much manpower that we could make a shovel for everyone."
Yeah.
And they were steel.
Yeah.
Everyone got a shovel. Fold it up, carry it on your back. The Japs were still digging with their hands, because the steel was going for guns and airplanes and tanks. And that was the story of the war in the Pacific. We just overwhelmed them with our substance.
From New York, you went to
Parris Island,
Parris Island.
which is in South Carolina.
South Carolina.
Marine Corps Recruit Station, Parris Island, South Carolina. Arrived there in July.
Probably never been that far south before.
Never. I'd never seen the ocean before.
Yeah.
Never had anyone speak to me like that before. Can I tell you one?
Yeah.
The train stops at Yamasee, North Carolina,
Okay.
which is about this big. You get out, everyone is nice to you. Line up here, please. Line up there, please. And we're going to have trucks here, and they come and get you with cattle trucks. They're tractor trailers with an open back. So we're all in there in our civilian duds, our little bag down there. We go on the base. And I remember the first words I heard said. We came over the bridge, and there was a young boy, a kid like us.
Right.
He was in Marine Corps dungarees, and he had a pith helmet. Everybody on Paris Island got a pith helmet. And he had a stick, and he was picking up leaves, one at a time with a stick. And he just caught my eye as I went by. And he looked at us, and he said, "You'll be sorry." Paris Island is, it's
And
an
then
unbelievable place.
Yeah.
We arrived there in those trucks and stopped, and this drill instructor, I had never seen a drill instructor before, his name was Sergeant Blackburn, had one of those Smokey Bear hats on,
Yeah.
stripes in his uniform.
Yeah.
I mean, he couldn't have been sharper looking. He must have gone about 180 pounds, and it was all muscle. And he said, "Welcome to my island. Now get off my fucking truck." That was the first thing said to me. And it went downhill from there. And half a century later, I saw his picture in a Leather magazine.
Yeah.
He had gone to a reunion of drill instructors at Paris Island.
Yeah.
And they listed his hometown, someplace in Virginia. And I wrote the postmaster in that town, and I said, "There's a guy in your town named Curtis Blackburn. Would you deliver this letter to him?" I got a letter back from Curtis Blackburn, and we corresponded for 10 years. Exchanged Christmas cards. Never went to see him. I never worked
Right.
out. And he died about 6 months ago. And his widow sent me a note. And there are still Al Dan in Florida and Carmine Polo in Columbia, South Carolina, and another guy named Peebles are all that's left that I know of the 75 guys in our boot camp platoon, which was platoon 475.
Now, there's something I've never been clear on. Did you have the same DI all the way through?
Yes.
Or,
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, I think probably the last week. See, the platoons don't all start at the same time. There might be a week difference. But when you end, they try to get you all on a furlough at the same time, so you all get back to Camp Lejeune at the same time,
Okay.
so they can put you in a larger unit, because a unit of 75 men is just awkward to handle. So that's what happened. We stayed around Paris Island for perhaps a week, waiting for a couple other platoons to graduate. And then we got our 10-day furlough, and then we reported back to Camp Lejeune. And during that time, we had a sergeant named Wilkinson.
Okay.
And, our training was over. We'd been granted our Eagle, Globe, and Anchor emblems, and that's when you were really a Marine, because you're not treated as a Marine until you pass the final test. And my drill instructor, Blackburn, went overseas, left the States before I did.
Okay.
He went in the 2nd Marine Division, and he was part of a fake landing made on Okinawa.
Oh, really?
The 2nd Marine Division was on Saipan, and they came up and they lined up on the southern shore and came roaring ashore, and then got back in their boats and went back to Saipan. They never came aground.
Oh, for heaven's
They
sakes.
never came ashore.
This is before we took Saipan?
No, this was after.
Okay,
After, yeah. This was probably 2 or 3 days into the Battle of Okinawa,
Okay,
which started
okay.
April 1st, 1945.
I see what you mean.
The only 2 Marine divisions on Okinawa was the 1st and the 6th.
What was Sergeant Blackburn's favorite form of discipline?
We all had a locker box, and we were all issued a key, and we were all issued 2 keys, I'm sorry. And his instructions were very precise. You take one key and put it around your neck on your dog tags. And you take the other key and you give it to me. And if you lose the key to your locker box, you come and see me. And if you wanted to come and see him, you knock on the door and you say, "Sir, PFC Whitaker would like to speak to us drill instructors." It's like taking a gun to your own head. Because the last thing you wanted a drill instructor to learn was your name. Anyway, we weren't there 2 days. And some kid couldn't get in his locker box.
Oh, boy.
So he knew what to do, and he went up, knocked on the door, and come in, and it was all kind of screaming and shouting and so forth. The kid comes back, and he picks up his locker box. Now, this is a big wooden box with some equipment already in it that had been issued. He put it on his head, and he went out, and we were in one-story wooden barracks.
Yeah.
And this kid went around the barracks until he passed out. This is in July, with the box on his head, saying, "I'm a shitbird from Yamasee, I locked my lock and lost my key. I'm a shitbird from Yamasee, I locked my..." And I remember seeing him go by the window over and over. And he finally just passed out.
Oh, man.
The drill instructor went out and threw a bucket of water on him.
The final test to get your globe. What was that?
Today in the Marine Corps they have something called a crucible. It's 10 days, I guess, out in the boonies. We didn't do that. We had about 4 weeks of just learning how to march and drill, and then we went to the rifle range. And after that was over, we came back for some more simulated action. Bayonet practice, grenade practice, learning the nomenclature of the M1 and how to fire it and so forth. Mainly discipline. What the Marine Corps was trying to do was to create a person who, when an officer or a non-commissioned officer said, "Follow me," you just went.
Right.
And that's why the Marines were so successful in combat. There was no question. You followed orders, and it was just instilled in every bit of training that was done. It was follow me and look out for your buddy. All combat was that night was 2 guys in a foxhole together, and your lives depended on each other. Somebody had to stay awake, and somebody had to sleep. And after 82 days of bad food, no baths, getting shot at, when in an atmosphere that almost anything you did could get you killed, including absolutely nothing, you could still get killed. That is debilitating. And after a while, you begin to wear out. Everybody lost weight. You couldn't eat. If you made a cup of coffee, by the time you got it to your lips, it was full of maggot flies. Flies were just all over the place. And probably the last month, I lived on D-bars, which are heavy black chocolate bars. But those and water sustained me. And the rations were awful, C rations and D rations. And if you happen to get your hands on a case of 10-in-1s, which was a more elaborate ration, there was no way to prepare it, because we'd all thrown away our mess gear.
Yeah.
So I had one situation in 82 days where the word we had been pulled off the line, and the word came down that we were going to get fresh food, or hot food, I think they said. Bring your mess kit and get in line. There was a big 6x truck with a guy sitting up in the back doing something. And none of us had any mess gear, but we all had a canteen cup. So, and I kept a fork. So when I got up there, I still didn't know what I was getting. I got an orange and a scoop of raw hamburger. That was it.
Oh, wow. Well, isn't that a treat?
And then this reminds me, I kept a pair of socks and a set of skivvies. They're green, tops, green skivvy shirt. In my pack, you couldn't carry very much. We threw all our stuff away when we landed, like gas masks. You had to dump that. And we all had a blanket. You'd throw that away. Because once the blanket got wet, what the hell are you going to do with it? We all had a poncho, which we kept. And that was about it. And by the time you loaded up with ammunition and hand grenades and a rifle, which weighs 9 pounds, and a helmet that's pretty heavy, you can't carry much. And I was in a machine gun platoon, so in addition to everything else, I had 2 cans of ammunition to carry. So that was tough. So you're always trying to cut down on the weight. So when we finally got a break, I decided that I was going to get a helmet full of fresh water. It's a full helmet full, which was a lot of water because it was scarce. And I took a bath in it, a little bit at a time, and like this. Finally got all ready, and I took my pristine socks out to put on. And as I was balancing myself on a rock, I stepped backward into a bunch of mud. So with my clean, and I remember the feeling. I thought, oh shit, can anything else go wrong on this friggin' island? My only pair of socks, and now I got one full of mud. So anyway, I didn't get to get a shower until I got back to Guam.
Yeah. So you left basic, got out of there, and what's the path now? Where'd you go?
Camp Lejeune, for infantry training. And that is, crawling under the barbed wire with the machine guns and throwing hand grenades, live grenades, going through a combat course. You walk through with live ammunition, and as you walk along, silhouettes would pop up in the trees, and you shot from the hip or shot from the shoulder. It was just making you comfortable with that weapon, which is a beautiful weapon. And that fires 8 rounds. And when the last round goes off, the clip comes out, and you can get another one in there in a fraction of a second. And in the meantime, the Japs are cranking this bolt-action Arasaki rifle. With simple firepower. Devastating. Every man had one. On Okinawa, it was very, very difficult for the civilian population because the Japanese had been there for years and they were closely into each other. I'm sure there were courtships going on between the soldiers and the women. The Japs had told them that they were all going to be killed and the women were all going to be raped, especially by the Marines. I don't know why they selected Marines. And therefore, they retreated with the Japs. As the Japs went south, they took the civilians with them. And then they finally got to the southern end of the island, and it became impossible. They were all starving. They were all living in caves. And it was just tough on the civilian population. And they would try to get away from the Japs at night by coming through our lines at night, which was suicidal. At night we'd set up a line and have a couple of machine guns set up and go out maybe 20 yards and take some sound power telephone lines, tie it to a tree, come out here and put a little ration can with a couple pebbles in it, and a couple more. So you sit there in the pitch black, and when one of those things go off, you just saw back and forth. You know where you're zeroed in. You have a traverse rod on your machine gun. You're firing about 1.5 feet off the ground. And in the morning, you got chickens, and you got dogs, and you got Jap soldiers, and you got Okinawan women and children, and 150,000 civilians killed on Okinawa. More than were killed in the A-bomb raids on Japan.
I didn't realize they were that intermixed with the battle. I thought maybe they were over here and the soldiers were over there.
No, the big casualties occurred in those that stayed with the Japanese, and the Japanese were always fighting a retreating action. They'd make a stand, and then they'd collapse in the night and go back and make another stand, and then a very formidable enemy.
Yeah.
Especially an enemy who thinks that if I don't win this battle, then I have to die in it.
Right.
And if I don't die in it, I have to cut my own belly open with a hara-kiri.
Yeah.
And the last thing you can do is go home as a loser.
And in that situation where you laid the traps at night, if a Marine just got up and to take a leak, you'd have killed him too. You know, and anybody.
Get up and take a leak.
Yeah, you know, I'm
You
just
don't-
saying. But
You piss in your hole.
Yeah, I know, but I'm just saying if
Yeah, no,
weren't
you don't.
just
You don't
aiming
get
at
up.
anybody, you were just
You don't move at
anything out
night.
there.
You don't move at night. And when you stick your head up, it's like just enough to see, because there's nothing there to see in the first place because it's
Yeah.
pitch black.
Yeah.
And if you think you hear something and you're near enough to a sound power phone and can call back, you call for mortars to fire flares. They pop a flare up, it comes down the parachute. It's very, very eerie to look out there and tree stumps and maybe people or something, a movement, and maybe a dog, but absolutely surreal. And it went on all the time. All the time. There was never a time when you didn't hear a gunshot someplace. Bang, bang, bang. A Japanese Nambu shoots a very rapid rate of fire. Like, brrrt, brrrt. And you knew exactly what that was. It fired faster than our machine guns. And people talking. You know. I was in a foxhole one night with John Centerfit, and we dug in. There was a road here. We dug in right here. It was a bad place, but we thought there was a machine gun set up in the middle of the road down behind us. And then we heard people going by at night. We thought, what the heck happened to the machine gun? Why didn't they fire? Because if we did anything, we gave away our position immediately. So we just hunkered down and listened. And that went on and on and on. And, you know, confusion.
Yeah.
I didn't know who they were. I didn't know whether they were Jap soldiers, civilians. I could hear women's voices. No action from the machine gun. And they certainly weren't letting them through. That would be crazy.
Yeah.
But it's just a nightmarish night. And two of us in a hole trying to stay awake. And you can go to sleep. You can sit there in the hole and go to sleep with your eyes open. Suddenly you go like this, you know.
Did you alternate one on guard,
Oh,
one
yeah,
asleep?
yeah.
Okay.
You stayed awake as long as you could.
Yeah.
Then you poked the other guy and woke him up. If he was asleep, your turn. And it always seemed that when you tried to get asleep, that you were asleep like 5 minutes. And
Yeah.
the guy was saying, hey, you know,
Yeah.
and we didn't have watches. The watches were
Can't imagine
worn
time
out.
would have meant anything.
no,
It
just
was-
waiting for dawn,
I'm just here.
just waiting for daylight.
Yeah. So from Camp Lejeune, where'd you go from there?
Cross country by train
Okay.
to San Diego or
Oh.
Camp Pendleton. And no time there, 2 or 3 days, and we were on board ship, bound for the Pacific. We didn't know where we were going. We crossed the we crossed the equator,
Yeah.
and we all became shellbacks.
Yeah.
We got our heads shaved and raw eggs jammed down our throat and all kinds of nonsense. And then on December 24th, we crossed the line, the 180th parallel. And when you cross the line, you lose a day. And we lost Christmas.
You lost Christmas.
So I'm 80 years old, and I've had 79 Christmases.
Well, that's a fine how do you do.
In my collection of junk in there, I have a little mimeograph sheet that they put out on board troop ship, and it's a funny apology from the captain for his untimely crossing of the line. And he said, nonetheless, we're going to have a great dinner. And we had turkey and dressing and ice cream, and we all got a cigar.
Ah.
And we puffed our way into the sunset and arrived at Banica in the Russell Islands, and disembarked and stayed there about 30 days, some guys had terrible seasicknesses, got over that and got our sea legs, got our land legs back.
Yeah.
And then we went over to Guadalcanal, which was a short trip by landing craft, maybe a couple of hours.
Was this December of '44?
Yeah.
Okay.
And joined the, well, it was February when we moved to Guadalcanal.
Okay.
And joined the attached, we were attached, my draft was attached to the 29th Marine Regiment.
Okay.
And it just so happened that the name of our draft was the 29th, but that had nothing to do with us joining the 29th Regiment, just a coincidence. And we didn't really do very much while we were there. And on March 13th, my 19th birthday, we boarded APAs bound for some unknown destination. But we knew we were going to hit something because we were trained and armed and ready to go. We stopped at Mogmog in the Ulithi group for a little beer party. Everybody was given a half a case of beer and a chance to go ashore and walk around. And got back on the ships, and that was probably a week and a half before we hit Okinawa. Hit Okinawa on April 1st, 1945, which was also Easter Sunday and also April Fool's Day.
Yeah.
And my 29th Marines landed on Red Beach 2. And I landed in the third wave on that same beach. And the landing was unopposed. And that we landed by maybe 3 o'clock in the afternoon and went about 3 miles inland. And again, unopposed. And the 6th Marine Division had swung north. And we just kept going east. And dug in on Yantan Airfield. Spent the night there, and the next day they said, we're going back to the beach and help unload ships. So for 3 weeks, I was on a beach unloading ammunition and rations and artillery shells. You know.
I'd like to know a little bit about the makeup of the group that you were in. Were there veterans of other campaigns in your group, or were you...
No, we were all probably less than 9 months in the Marine Corps.
Okay.
I went overseas in 6 months.
I didn't know if they had interspersed some
No,
veterans with you.
no, that didn't happen until you joined your line unit.
Okay.
And so we were just all kids. There was a couple of older guys, but they were still privates. And after about 3 weeks of that, they said, we're breaking up. And I went to Fox Company, the 2nd Battalion, 29th Marines, with 12 other guys that I knew in my draft. And when we got there, we were assigned a different positions. Some guys went to the machine gun platoon. Some guy might go to mortars. Some guys went to the rifle platoon. I went to the machine gun platoon.
Okay.
And that's when I started meeting guys that had been in combat before. Not very many,
Right.
but some of the non-commissioned officers. I'm not sure, maybe 1 or 2 of the officers. But the 6th Marine Division was formed on Guadalcanal, and there were not a lot of veterans in it.
Okay.
It was freshly put together. The 22nd Regiment, the 4th Regiment, and the 29th were all rifle companies, or rifle battalions, regiments, and then there was mortar platoons and special communications people and so forth. I guess there's about 25,000 people in a regiment, but I'm not sure of that.
All right.
Don't quote me.
Okay. Who's the Marine general in overall command of the Okinawa invasion? And I know Rocky was at Iwo Jima.
Well, it must have been Vandegrift.
Vandegrift?
Yeah.
I know Vandegrift was at Guadalcanal, and I thought he was at Okinawa as well.
No, I'm sorry. It was Shepard. No, wait a minute. Shepard was the general of the 6th Marine Division, but he wasn't the commandant.
Okay.
Yeah, Lemuel Shepard was our 6th Marine Division commander.
What'd you think of him? Is he a pretty good commander?
He didn't ask me much. I didn't see him very often. We never dined together.
No? Well, darn.
You got any more stupid questions?
I got plenty of them. Yeah, I got a boatload of those.
Never saw a man of that rank on Okinawa, ever. What you learn in boot camp is this separation between privates and corporals. There's a big gap there.
Yeah.
And the separation between a private and a sergeant is a quantum leap. And then a private and a lieutenant, you know. But anyway, that all disappears in combat. The respect stays, but everybody knows what they're supposed to do and does it. And very few officers that were considered goof-offs or anything like that. And if they were, they just disappeared.
Yeah.
They were quickly, not disposed of, but they left the scene. Where they went, you know, I only know one. He was just a wacko. Name was Wiggins. Decided he wanted a horse. He was a replacement lieutenant.
Gee.
Because he couldn't carry his gear or something, I don't know. He used to wear his helmet with the camouflage cover hanging down his back like a legionnaire. And he carried his poncho stuffed in the back of his cartridge belt so it drug down on the ground.
Good grief.
He was just a mess. And there was a runner in my company named Gene Lewis. And he told Gene if Gene caught a horse for him, he'd give Gene a 45. And Gene said, what the heck? I can catch a horse, and I'd like to have a 45. So he got Wiggins a 45. And then Wiggins put all his gear on the horse, his rifle, and his back, his pack. And he used to ride it occasionally. And then a high officer came by one day, and that was the end of Wiggins and the horse.
That would do it.
And Gene kept the 45, and the first night Gene had the 45, we were in a tomb, Okinawan tombs, dome-shaped things. They were great places to sleep in. First you take out the jugs of bodies. The Okinawan burial procedure is you put the person in there in a coffin, and when the body deteriorates, you have a party. You take the body out in the courtyard and take out the bones and you clean them all. Then you put them in an urn and you put them back in. So what was in these tombs are mostly urns full of bones. So we would take the urns and put them out in the patio and get in there and sleep. They had shelves. So Gene is sitting in there with his newly acquired 45 and he cleaned it all up and jerked it back and bang, he shot a hole. He shot it into the ceiling, and it ricocheted because of this dome. And everybody's screaming, you know, Lewis, get out of here with that thing before you kill somebody. Great guy. He was discharged at the same time I was and died about 5 or 6 years later, and I had no idea why. That happened to another good friend, Danny Testa, who was also a runner. He was home about 6 years and just died. I still correspond with his son, who looked me up about 5 or 6 years ago. Danny Testa, great guy.
All right, you're on the beach. They're calling you up, and where did you go from there?
Delivered by truck to Fox Company. 6th Marine Division had gone north, completely successful. Had a few engagements on their way, but secured the northern end. No casualties in Fox Company.
Okay.
So when we came, we were added, and about May 2nd, we were loaded on trucks to go south to relieve the 27th Army Division, who couldn't seem to get it done. Mucho hard feelings. We passed, our trucks were going south and their trucks were going north. And the insults never stopped.
Yeah, I bet.
And every once in a while, one of the soldiers would throw over a candy bar. They'd throw it back. Carton of cigarettes. Fuck you. And they really, you know, there's a great deal of animosity between how the Marines fight a battle and over how the Marines fight a battle and how the Army fights a battle. Army digs in, calls the artillery. Marines get up out of their foxholes and go after the people. So anyway, we went south and we took over their positions. And the first night we received the heaviest artillery barrage I've ever been in. And I thought we were all going to be killed. The Army had dug big foxholes, big enough to put a car in. Not big enough, but not that deep. Which was the worst kind of hole you can be in, because if a shell lands in there, you're done.
Yeah.
Our foxholes were just big enough for two guys. So we got through that, and then we did some moving around, limited action, mostly chasing this retreating force. And finally, we chased them to a place called the Yanabura-Shuri line, which was a line that the Japanese general had decided was going to be where he, instead of meeting us on the beach, his scheme was to get us inland and wipe us out at that point. And when we hit that area, things really started going bad for the 6th Marine Division. My company was committed on the 17th of May, and my platoon, my machine gun section, was attached to the 2nd platoon. Instead of operating on its own, it was attached to a rifle platoon. And we made an assault on Sugar Loaf Hill on the 17th of May. And I think we were the 11th assault made. Easy Company had almost been wiped out in their attempts, which had been 3 or 4. And the 22nd Marines had tried it and failed. And we were sent up there under the leadership of Lieutenant Bean. And he was a great officer. Follow me, let's go, guys. First man killed. Others were killed, many wounded. We lost one of our guns, machine guns. As I think I said, we were not up there more than 20 minutes. And the way the Japanese had this area plotted, they could drop, the guy sitting over here knew exactly where his mortar round was going to land over there. Mm-hmm. He didn't even have to move the tube.
Yeah.
And they let us, we had to go across a draw before we got to silence, no firing. We got to the top and it came down like rain. Yeah. We couldn't even get our guns set up. Started taking heavy casualties. Lieutenant got killed, sergeant got killed, and a friend that died here just a few years ago, Ike Warnemaker, was in our machine gun. And he said, let's get the hell out of here, because we were getting decimated. And the Japs also were smart in that they bombarded our retreat. Our retreat was across this thing, and they just kept dumping him in there. Anyway, my friend John Centerfit and I came down the hill together. We threw away our ammunition cans, couldn't carry them, and picked up a gunner named Charlie Lewis that had been hit. We got behind a hill called Queen Hill. I didn't know what the hill's name was. I saw it in the maps later. Got him in an Amtrak. And our platoon and our machine gun section, which probably consisted of 40 men altogether, was badly scattered. And it was getting dark. And John and I started to improve a foxhole we found. And I got shot in the hand by a sniper. And John, and we couldn't move. We dove in the hole, and then we knew the sniper had us, and for us to even stick our heads up. Yeah. So squirreling around in there, and John's trying to bandage my hand. And it got dark, and we just stayed there all night. And next morning, I didn't think I had been hit very bad. The bullet, I had my hand on an entrenching tool, and the bullet hit the handle, and split the handle, and part of it went in my hand, but I couldn't tell. It was so much blood and wood. And anyway, the next morning a corpsman came by, a guy named Don Peterson, and he took a look and he said, "You got to get out of here." He said, "I can't do anything." He said, "You got to be worked on by someone with tweezers and knows what he's doing, because you got some in there deep." Anyway, I walked back to a battalion aid station, and that's just what happened. A surgeon with one of those big glasses picked on my hand for about an hour. And he said, "You got it all out?" And he said, "You're not bad." I was back on the line 2 days later. Huh. I spent 2 nights there, sleeping on a cot, which was nice. That was nice break.
Luxury.
And when I came back, Lieutenant Shear, who was the company commander, his runner had been killed. He said, "Get his radio, you're my runner." And that's what I did for the rest of the campaign. Yeah.
John said that your socks would just crumble on you.
Oh, yeah. Oh, one pair of socks for 80 days.
Yeah.
Dungarees, and just wear out and fall off.
Did they ever charge at you? I mean, it sounded like they just kept pulling you back into their defensive positions where they could decimate you.
Oh, at night. Banzai charges at night.
Okay.
It was very rare for them to make any really aggressive moves in the daytime, but at night, they get the trumpets going, and they get full of sake, and suddenly they're... Again, you got to remember what kind of training they had, and what kind of people they had, and how desperate they were, because they knew they were losing. Because every day we took a little of their ground. Yeah. And it started to running out. They started running out of land. Yeah. And they were jumping in the North China Sea near the end, because there was no more land. Huh. We came in like this. And as we came this way, the island narrowed and our forces got more formidable, because we started to come together. So I can look over there, and there's Easy Company. I look over there, and there's George Company. Yeah. And you look way over there, there's the 1st Marine Division.
That'd be a good sight.
And everybody's going down, and chaps are jumping off cliffs and blowing themselves up in caves. Wow. And when we couldn't clear the caves, we'd find the vent hole, pour napalm in it, torch it off with a white phosphorus grenade. Mayhem. Navy ships were going around broadcasting with PA systems, with Japanese interpreters or speakers. Come out, surrender, you will not be harmed. And on the same ships, there were sailors with M1s shooting Japs on the beach. Yeah. It was, crazy. But that only lasted a couple of days. And suddenly it was over. The island was declared secure on the 22nd of June. And on the 23rd of June, I came as close to getting killed as any day during that campaign. Lieutenant Shear said, "Let's go, we're going to check something out." When somebody says, "Let's go," you go. Yeah. Danny, Harry, I think there were 8 of us. And we're walking along it wasn't virgin territory as far as we were concerned, because we'd been through there before, but we had just passed through quickly. You never know what you bypass. So we're walking along this road, and we're strung out. Point man's up front, another guy here. Shear's here, I'm with him. The Indian that operated our 300 radio is right next to me, and behind us there's 3 other guys. And Shear, who was a good officer and smart, never did anything dumb. He didn't even carry a carbine. He carried an M1 because if you carried a carbine, he didn't carry a map case because that made him look different.
Yeah.
He carried his maps in here. He pulls out the map of all things and he starts looking at it.
Oh,
I couldn't believe him.
Oh.
And a Jap jumped out of a cornfield and came right at him with a grenade in each hand. Popped them both. Bob couldn't do anything. He couldn't even get his gun unlimbered. Jumped in the foxhole or in the ditch. The two guys up front couldn't fire because they would be firing right into us.
Yeah.
And the guys behind us couldn't fire. And the radio operator couldn't get his gun unlimbered if he had to because the radio was too heavy. I had the only shot, and I took it and I hit him. And he careened off. He kept running, and this time he ran right down in the ditch, and both grenades went off.
Wow.
And because he went in the ditch, there was
Yeah.
none of the pieces came out. Anyway, that was a close one.
I reckon.
And Bob and I still talk about it.
I'd have a hard time, even though they said secure, I would still have this uneasy feeling that,
Oh yeah, well that's why
Well,
that's why we're out on a patrol.
Yeah.
We were probing to see if this was made sense. But when you've been in combat 82 days and somebody says the island's secured, you know what the first thought is? I'll be home by Christmas.
yeah.
And you go out there with your head up your ass,
Mm.
and you can get killed. And I think my good friend, the lieutenant, just momentarily made one mistake. He just took out that map. And that immediately identified him as an officer.
John Spieger told me that he had a case of dud grenades. I mean, they were poorly manufactured grenades. They wouldn't explode. And then he also said that they had longer fuse grenades, and then they switched them and put shorter fuse grenades. I didn't tell you guys. Did you run into any of that?
I've heard that story before. I also have a friend who claims, and every time he tells me this story, I say, you're really full of crap. He said they would take a grenade apart and take their K-bar and cut a piece off the end. Now, a grenade inside has a pin that goes down inside about that long. Yeah. He said, we used to cut that. I said, that's impossible, Bill. Who told you that? They said, oh, that's what they did. I said, they did. Do you ever do it? Well, no.
No, but
I said, well, somebody's, giving you a lot of bunk. And as far as the grenades, the badly timed grenades, I don't know. I knew that if you threw one, and if you let the spoon go and threw it too soon, you might get it back.
Right.
So it was usually pop, 1, 2, throw it. But they were usually all 4 seconds.
4 seconds. John was indicating that they had some that were 2 second, and the guys went pop 1, 2, and did much more than get it out of their hands. Yeah. Some fellows.
See, you can pull a pin on a grenade and walk around with it all day, and it's not going to go off. Yeah. But when you let that spoon go, that goes pop. You got 4 seconds.
Yeah.
You got to get rid of it.
Yeah. How long were you actually on the island after it was so-called secure?
Total time there, 101 days, and it was declared secure in 82 days. Right. We got on a LST and headed for Guam. Resting, mainly.
Right.
Get organized, reorganize, get replacements. Not really doing much. Yeah. I continued my assignment as a runner. My job was to go up to the battalion Quonset hut every morning, and a guy from Easy Company used to go up. The guy that was, doing the same thing I did, but for Easy Company.
Sure. And
we'd sit on a little bench facing the battalion adjutant, and we were gophers. Go down to Fox Company and get the morning report. Go here and get this. Go there and get that. Then go and, I'll tell you a story. Go and get my water cooler full. Next to his desk, he had a canister.
Yeah.
Go down and get this full of water. So two of us, walking down the company street, dirt street, to the mess hall. And there was a Fox Company mess sergeant, and I knew him. His name was Sagiotis. And he was in the rear echelon. He never went to Okinawa. He left Guadalcanal and went back to Guam. But when we came back, he was assigned us. And when we walked in his mess hall, and it was his mess hall, with our can, we got a ration of shit. I mean, it wasn't pleasant. And, you know, he was a sergeant, and we were still PFCs. One day, and after we took this crap from him, one day he said, you know, you can tell Winters that if he wants his fucking ice water, to get his fucking canteen cup and come down here and get it himself. I'm tired of filling his fucking, you know. So we're walking back with an empty thing. I said, let's get out of here, to the guy from Easy Company. He said, what are you going to do? I said, well, I'm not going to stand here and take that crap from him. Let's go back. What are you going to do when you get back there? I said, let me think about it. So we walked into the office and we set the can down, and Winters looked at the can and the lid was off. He said, where's my water? And I got myself to attention and I said, sir, Sergeant Sagiotis says if you want your fucking ice water, to get your fucking canteen cup and get down here and get it yourself. Jesus Christ, it was like he had lit a torch under this guy. And he immediately knew that we weren't at fault.
Yeah.
And he calmed a little bit. He said, follow me and bring that fucking can. So we got down there and we stood in the company street, and he went in the mess hall by himself. Jesus, I thought the roof was going to come off. And when he came out, he said, go get my water now. We went in. Sagiotis never said a word. Opened the reefer door, went in, poured it out, put the lid on, handed it to us. We walked back. And from then on, when we went out, went for our morning water, it was no bad trip for us. Sergeant Sagiotis. And Saggy and I made up. In fact, he came to a couple of reunions, and we shared this. We talked about the story, and he said, you know. So I shouldn't have said it to you guys. You weren't at fault. And he apparently hated Winters. Just hated him. Lots of bad feelings. Anyway, that I continued as the Fox Company runner. And when we went to China, I was promoted. I mean, I didn't get any rank out of it, but I became the battalion colonel's runner.
Oh,
and that was a cushy job.
I reckon.
Jack Airy, another guy in Fox Company, and I were selected to be his runners, or his orderlies. That's what we really were. And our instructions were, go down. He was in the Strand Hotel. We lived in the building right next door. Go down and light his stove. It was a little kerosene stove, and the Chinese had a stupid system. They would take a potbelly stove and put sand in the bottom. Then they put a piece of copper pipe in, pinch the end so it just dripped, and then hook it up to a 5-gallon can of kerosene. And when you went in the morning, you turned the valve and it started to drip. And when you got enough dripping in the sand, you lit the sand, and then it would lit. And you know, you could stand right like this, and you never got any heat. But it was their idea of central heating. Anyway, we lit the Colonel Rob's fire, and he would come in about 10 o'clock. And we'd give him a snappy salute. Morning, Whitaker. He growled when he spoke. He'd go in there and he'd stay about 15 minutes, and he had a buzzer set up so he could ring it over my head, our head. And we were there one at a time. We'd never two of us. And bing, so I'd go in, Whitaker, go down to the NCO mess and get me coffee. Yes, sir. And there was nobody said anything about the colonel's coffee. We just got it. Bring it back, and he would stay another hour or so, and then he'd buzz. I'd go in, he'd say, Whitaker, I'm going to secure for the day. I suggest you do the same. Thank you. Thank you, Colonel. That's what I did for 6 months. Day on, day off. And I had liberty every day.
Oh, man. That's tough duty
And
now.
Tsingtao, China. Great.
Now, John seemed to indicate that the Chinese hated the Marines. They didn't. Both sides, the communist and the nationalist.
Well,
Neither one
I never
headed
was
there.
able to quite just figure out what was going on. We used to hear gunfire at night up in artillery up in the hills.
Yeah.
But there was no communist activities right in the city that I knew about. Now, some of our guys were out guarding coal piles and ammo depots and things like that. And I don't know whether they were just vandals, but every once in a while somebody would get shot, a gook, a Chinese person.
Yeah.
And, how do you know whether they're communists or nationalists or what they are? It might be somebody just out trying to find a hot meal or something. I never really understood what was going on. Never tried to understand. I'll tell you something else. Fox Company was selected in December of 1945 to get on board an LST in Tsingtao and go north up on the Shantung Peninsula to a place called Weihai Wei and Pinglei and a couple of other places, and recover the bodies of 3 or 4 Navy flyers whose planes had been forced down in a bad storm. Planes had crashed. But they thought they could save one plane that had landed in the field, and we had landing mats with us, and we're all in an LST, our company, and some duck drivers, the duck amphibious vehicles. So we went puttering up the coast and went ashore once and couldn't find anything. Next time we went ashore, oh no, I know what it was. We were told that there was a plane just a few miles up the coast. Some native told us, in a field. So we went up there and we get in this duck to go ashore. Because I was the colonel's orderly, I had the radio. And there was duck driver, 10 Marines. Halfway there, it was like a Western movie. Soldiers stood up all along the horizon, and it was close to the beach, all armed. We got 10 guys with rifles. And there was a guy on the beach in civilian clothes, a gown, Chinese gown with one of those stupid hats on. So we went ashore, and Colonel Robb and he had a confab. And they knew of the plane, they knew why we're there, but they didn't want us to come ashore armed. This was the big problem. So getting Marines to go anywhere without their rifles is kind of difficult. Anyway, went back to the ship, and Rob spoke to whatever headquarters there were in Tsingtao, or was in Tsingtao, and gave him an assessment of what they found. He said, go ahead, we think you're okay. So we went ashore, and the plane was damaged and could not be moved, and we took the guns off and the cameras off and burned it. And then this guy, this Chinese man, who seemed to be in charge of these were communists. His name was Dr. Sun, and he invited us to go up the coast a little bit further to Ping Lai, where they had recovered a body and buried it. The plane had crashed in the ocean. So we went up there and went ashore. Again, a small party. And as soon as we went ashore, we split, and the lieutenant and about 5 guys in a duck went down to where the body was buried, because we were going to recover the body and bring it back. The rest of us, which consisted of a life reporter, I don't know how he got there, but he was with us, Colonel Robb, Colonel Robb's personal Jeep driver, our duck driver, and 3 or 4 Marines. And we're invited to go to the mayor's house for dinner. And now we're pretty Asiatic.
Yeah.
And we've been out there a long time, and we haven't sat around a table with linen. And that was it. We went in this house, and it was very fashionable. It was the mayor's home. And there were waiters and waitresses, and we had about a 7-course meal. And the editor of the local paper was there, and he must have been an avowed communist, because he would stand up every once in a while and toast the communist forces and run his mouth off. And anyway, we were just enjoying the brandy and the palate cleansers between courses. I mean, it was really great.
That is fancy.
And we're in dungarees and muddy boots, and hands hadn't been washed. And this went on an hour and a half, 2 hours, and we were getting drunk. No, there was no question about we were getting drunk because they never stopped with the booze. Now we're going to have this white wine. Now we're going to have this red wine. Now we're going to have a little soup. Now we're going to have this. Finally, it came time that we had to go, and the meal was coming to an end. And all during the meal, I wasn't very up on how to use the silverware, especially when it left your plate and went out like this, So every time we got something new, I watched Rob, and I'd see what he picked up, and I'd pick it up the same thing. We got through the meal all right. And we got near the end, and next to me there was the duck driver. I don't know who he was because he wasn't in my unit. And they came around with these little bowls of warm water, and he drank his, and it was a finger bowl. Oh God! So anyway, we got back on in our duck. The guy with the lieutenant with the body showed up, and our mission was over. And we started back to the LST, and the LST is sitting there in the dark with the ramp down and open. And the first pass, the duck driver missed the entrance, and we ran into the ship. And there was a lot of backing down and shouting and screaming. And also, another part of this story, because of our friends back on the LST eating real bad food for now 3 weeks, no, a week and a half, we were stealing stuff off the table, we'd take a pickle and, a little hors d'oeuvre and stick it here and there, piece of cake. And anyway, when we got back, we shared whatever our loot was. And we finally got everybody back on board and started back to Tsingtao. No more stops, just back to Tsingtao. But unfortunately, it was the 24th of December. And it looked like I was going to miss another Christmas. But I knew I wasn't going to miss it because we were just simply going to be at sea. And there was nothing special about food on the LST. So a Marine friend of mine who now lives in Naples, Florida, named Howard Terry. Howard was a funny guy. Howard got something that looked like a hula skirt, and he put some coconuts or whatever he had in there, and a mop for a wig. And we decided to have a party. Now we're all on the tank deck sleeping in cots. And the condensation from the overhead, it would rain every once in a while inside. You had to cover yourself up with your poncho or you'd get wet. It was a terrible place to spend time. But we decided to have a party. And we didn't have anything to drink. We just singing songs and singing Christmas carols. And some sailor came by and made a remark about Terry's tits. And a goddamn fight broke out. Oh, no. And the only thing that made the fight stop, a diesel line in the ceiling broke, and it started dumping diesel fuel right on the tank deck. Anyway, that was all solved, and we got back to Tsingtao on the 27th, I think, and they had saved Christmas dinner for us, and we had a Christmas dinner all to ourselves. And for years, I wondered if that odyssey had ever been recorded. And I looked and looked, and finally I found a chapter in the history of the Marine Corps that talks about it. I wrote it up and circulated it to the guys in Fox Company, and it was carried in one of our little publications. And then I found another reference to it, but I now have it pretty well documented, and a list of all the people, our radio code names. We were Kangaroo Fox. It was what reminded me of it was your mention of the communists.
That is a rare piece now.
Yeah.
Did you ever figure out why you were sent to China in the first place?
To repatriate the Japs.
Okay.
See, that section of China had been occupied for 20, 30 years. Total control.
Right.
And when we got there, it was, whew. First of all, it was a coastal city, like a Miami Beach,
Yeah.
only it wasn't
Yeah.
that far south. White Russian businesses, a city, a couple of skyscrapers. Texaco had a building in there, was about 8 stories.
Huh.
There was a nightclub on the top called the Camé. And here's the good part. If you took $1 American and went out the front gate with it and went down the hill, the money changers were there waiting for the Marines to go on. First of all, you did a little bargaining. And you'd say, no. Finally, you get some guy say, okay. For $1 American, they had rolls of 100 yen units. We call them $100 bills. They were about this big.
Yeah.
36 for $1 American.
Huh.
Now, what can you get for 3,600 Chinese yen? A steak dinner with a beer, $700. A manicure, a pedicure, a rub down in a bathhouse, $200. A ride almost anywhere in the city for $200 in a rickshaw.
Huh.
I mean, we were living like kings.
Hi.
Hi, Abe. Anyway, this went on for a couple months until the Navy started getting liberty, and that kind of spoiled the exchange rate.
Yeah. Navy's
But it was
nice.
always good. And I've often said, had I had any smarts then about diamonds, jade,
Oh,
teak, China, a lot of the stuff came on the market that had been hidden from the Japs because the Japs would just confiscate it.
sure.
They could sell it to us. I got a couple of small things, a couple of pieces of pottery, but nothing really big, but pearls. But it was good duty,
Yeah.
really good duty.
Yeah.
And then finally, in April, we were rotated out on the basis of how many points we had.
Okay.
You get a point for every month in the service and 2 points for every day in combat. I know, I've forgotten what it was. It was quite elaborate. But you got 5 points for a Purple Heart. And I had 33 points. And suddenly, April, my level came up. And I packed it up, said goodbye to all the guys, and went back to Saugerties. I got home on Memorial Day, 1946,
Good day to get back.
about 3 o'clock in the morning.
Were you surprised when you went back to see the names at the school? Were you surprised by the number who hadn't made it back? Because it had to have changed. That sign had to have changed radically since.
Yeah,
Once you left.
there were friends. Dean Van Etten was killed. Grant Ackert was killed. Some Army guys I didn't know. Some Navy guys. I don't know what the total loss in Saugerties was. I really don't know. And you know, it's funny. I didn't think there was anything unusual about what I had experienced in the Marine Corps. It was more or less what I expected when I went in. And I didn't think about it much. I was too busy doing other things. You know, the homecoming lasted like 2 or 3 days. You know, hey, how are you? Come buy you a beer. And then it's back to normal. And it wasn't until years later when I started reading statistics about how many people had actually been shot at or in a position where they could get shot or got up and faced the enemy in any way. And I'm including guys that flew airplanes and so forth because they were in combat. But the percentage of guys who were out there and could get killed doing what they were doing is rather small compared to all the people who were in the services.
Yeah.
And that was an awakening for me. And I began to view my Marine Corps experiences and the people I knew. I hardly knew anyone that didn't get wounded.
Yeah.
My company 261 men was down to 60 men once.
Oh my gosh.
In 3 days, we went from, on the May 17th, 18th, and 19th, we went from 261 men to 60 men. Not all killed, but killed and wounded.
Right.
I can show you the list in my desk there. So, it turned out that this was not the usual service experience that
I was always astounded at just the way they supported the effort, how this item got from the manufacturer into the hands of the guy who needed it.
Oh yeah, we didn't lack for
It's
anything.
astounding.
The only thing we lacked for really was good food.
Oh,
I mean, the rations were awful, but if you wanted a rifle, bang, you got it. You wanted 50 rounds of ammo, you know, it was there. It was always there. Grenades. Rarely would they run out of grenades.
yeah.
There's always someone to bring it up and put it in your hands.
You went into Okinawa green, never seen combat. If you had faced another battle after that, how do you think you would have faced it? Would you have faced it differently?
I wouldn't have gone.
Yeah, okay.
No.
Yeah.
Yeah. I understand your question. You learn quickly. You learn how to stay alive, and you very quickly learn what stupidity can cost. And you know, you said get up in the middle of the night and take a piss.
Sure.
You know, that could get you killed
Sure.
by your own men.
Yeah.
By your own men.
Yeah.
You walk by somebody's foxhole and the guy just goes up and bang.
Yeah.
All he sees is a silhouette go by.
Yeah. Would you have, okay, equipment-wise, would you have gone inland with different equipment, or what would you have taken? What would you have left behind?
Well, that is a fine weapon, and I carried it all the time I was doing the duties of a rifleman. When I became a runner, I had to deal with a radio, a small walkie-talkie 536 radio. And one time I had the opportunity to steal a Thompson submachine gun from an Army tank outfit, and I took the opportunity. And I carried that Thompson from then on. And that's a great weapon for someone that has their hands full with other stuff.
Right.
But if you want to kill a guy at 500 yards, that's what you do it with. Because the Thompson wouldn't go 500 yards, but it would put out a stream of bullets in a hurry. And it was 45 caliber, and when you get hit with one of those, you just go down.
Yeah.
But
You mentioned earlier off camera that the M1 was made at Springfield. You had the Springfield M1s. You had International Harvester ones.
Harrington and Richardson. That was the other company
Okay.
that made guns.
Okay. Was there any difference in? Did you?
No.
Any
no.
noticeable difference between the manufacturers?
None whatsoever.
Okay.
They all look the same. Same set of specs. The only thing difference would be the serial numbers.
Okay.
Um,
I didn't.
all parts interchangeable.
Didn't know if one manufacturer maybe made it a little better than another. I couldn't imagine they would, but
There are some grand collectors now who collect Harrington and Richardsons just because there are fewer made than Springfields. There were more Springfields made than any of them, because that's our national armory. So there are more of them than any other weapon, any other M1. But they're all exactly the same. And to this day, you could take that rifle apart and throw it on the floor, and take a Harrington and Richardson, throw it on the floor, and start picking up pieces, and the gun would work. No difference.
always happened.
And Garand, the man who invented that, was a wizard.
Yeah.
It's a fine weapon. And as I said, when those Japs were cranking that bolt action stuff, we were getting off 8 rounds of 30 caliber. They were using 25 caliber. There's a clip up there sitting on the shelf, an 8-round clip.
Okay.
Now you carried a cartridge belt with 1, 2, 3, 8. You had 8 clips, 8 in a clip, and then when you got ammunition sent up to you, it'd come in a box with a lid that come off like a can,
Okay.
You tear it off.
Right.
And in there were bandoliers. And a bandolier is a cloth, made of cloth, light cloth, about that long, about that thick, and it had 8 clips in it. You just put it around your neck.
Okay.
You put one this way, one this way. And then with that, you were heavily armed.
Now, besides food, did you have trouble getting ammunition or supplies that you needed?
No.
Came in pretty regular?
No, that was pretty regular. Water was sometimes a problem.
Yeah.
We were all issued halozone tablets, so if you really got desperate, you could go to a rice paddy and scoop some out and throw some halozone in there and shake it up. But we all, in the end, had dysentery, so it didn't really matter.
Yeah.
You get it one way or the other.
Yeah.
I remember one time when we were relieved, I was in a foxhole, and if I laid on my stomach, I threw up, and if I laid on my back, I crapped my pants.
Yeah.
And the only thing I could do was hobble to the corpsman and get a cup full of paregoric, which is awful crap.
Oh.
White. It's supposed to stop you up. Well, if you drink a couple of gallons, I guess it works. Paregoric. You know they still use it?
Well, I've had it in my lifetime, I'll put it that way.
Okay.
Now, you said about being relieved. Were you on the line for so long and pulled back and then put back on the line, or?
Well, in our case, when we came south, which was, let's say, rounded off May 1st. May, June, the campaign ended June 22nd. So that's 30 plus 50 days that we were, and during the first 15 or 16 days, we were in limited action, usually pursuing someone, going through towns, taking care of snipers and things like that. Then when we were committed to the Shuri, Yanaburo line, we were really into it. And that's when we got cut from 260 men to 60 men in 3 days. Then we were pulled off. We were relieved by the 4th Marines on the 19th of May, pulled back to lick our wounds. We had really taken a beating. And started receiving replacements. Up until that time, the only replacements Fox Company received was the group I was in, with the numbered 13 guys. We joined on the north end. But then a lot of guys came in, right off the boat from the States. But there wasn't much left to do. But still, some of them got killed, wounded. People doing stupid things, trying to find souvenirs.
Oh, yeah. Okay, now the Germans were really bad about booby trapping.
Oh, the Japs did the same
thing.
thing.
They were pretty much the same way.
We came on a group of Marines, and I don't know what unit they were in. We just came along, and they were there, and they were in the doorway of a house looking in, and we said, "What are you guys doing?" They said, "There's a Samari sword in there. It's on the floor.
Boy.
We think it's booby trapped." So we're trying to fish out, and they were throwing a piece of sound power line with a rock on it, trying to fish it out the door. And they finally got it. And it was a beauty.
Yeah.
Ivory. Guy walked back to get the scabbard, and the scabbard was booby trapped. Blew him up.
Oh, man.
Blew the whole house up.
Oh, jeez.
But, yes. And they would also try to get through our lines at night, disguised as civilians.
Yeah.
See, there again, you never knew what you were facing, because if the enemy says he will either defeat you, kill you, or he will kill himself, then what is he doing sneaking through the line dressed as an Okinawan civilian? So is he trying to get behind our lines and do damage? And how do you tell him from a normal Okinawan? We picked up, I'd say in the last 3 weeks of the campaign, we picked up a young boy his name was Tacky. And he stayed with us. We fed him. And when we capture some civilians or Japs or whatever, they were all in a bunch together, we'd walk down, we got them all covered, they can't do anything.
Right.
And Tacky would say, okay, Japanese. He knew the difference. And we'd say, okay, out you go. You go in a different group. You never knew who you were dealing with. And that's what made it so dangerous. We were moving up one day in the daylight, broad daylight, with line of civilians coming our way, and I was watching them, mostly women, and I saw one go like this to the woman behind her, and the woman behind her refused to take. You know, I could see this, and so this woman went back and concealed whatever it was she was trying to pass. I just walked over and let me have it. She gave me a beautiful Fabrique Nationale 38 caliber automatic with 1 round in it.
Ah.
It was no good to me as a weapon, but I put it in my pack. I brought it home as a souvenir. Where she shot the other 8 rounds out of that gun, I do not know, but she must have used it on somebody.
Yeah.
There were a lot of suicides among the Okinawans.
I heard they were jumping off cliffs and stuff.
Sad, tragic.
Yeah.
There were a group of young nurses that retreated right with the Japanese and tended to their wounded. Their story is, I can't remember the name of the book, but I have a copy in there about the ordeal they went through. Japanese were ruthless. They had Korean conscripts with them, Okinawan civilians, and they were brutal. They loved the sword.
Yes, they
Off
did.
with the head.
Look what they did to the Filipinos and
Oh yeah.
women in
How about Shanghai?
China. My gosh, Koreans.
And they were brutalized by their officers.
Yeah.
They just beat up on them.
How'd you hear about the atomic bomb being dropped?
We were on Guam, living in tents, and just the word came down. They just dropped a couple of bombs, big ones.
Yeah.
And you know, everybody had a few rounds left over, because there were Japs around on Guam, and we had armed patrols at night. So the minute this news came out, it was like that patrol. You know, you think you're going to be home by Christmas. So the guys were out in the company street firing their rifles in the air. And we used to bury our beer in the sand to try to get it cold. And everybody got their beer stash out and drank it all. And, you know, we had a good party. And the next day was back to normal. And then we heard that finally the Japs had surrendered. Then we, you know, that was official then. But we did hear about the dropping of the bomb a couple days before the word got back that they had done something big. We didn't know it was an atomic bomb. That came out a little later.
Yeah. For anyone who wasn't on Okinawa, it just would have been almost impossible to fathom how tough it would have been to actually invade the home islands.
Oh.
If we didn't have those bombs.
Yeah. We were on Guam long enough to begin to start thinking about retraining. A few little short marches and getting people back in shape. But we knew, after they dropped the bomb, we knew where we were going to land, saw the maps.
Where were you scheduled to land?
Honshu.
Honshu, okay.
And it would have been a big invasion for us, and Japs were ready for us. There's a book titled Japan at War, an oral history. Best book I ever read. And if you want to understand the Japanese mind and what the military leaders had done to the civilian population to get them ready, you know, everybody had a spear. You know, that's crazy.
Yeah.
Kids had spears, and they didn't have any guns, but that's what we're going to do. We're going to come down there and we're going to kill them. And the kamikazes are going to bomb the fleet.
You get to come home and see. How long were you in China? Did you leave from China?
I was in China 6 months.
Okay, 6 months in China. And from there, you went home?
Right, directly cross country by train. Our train wrecked in Pennsylvania. 3 or 4 guys were killed. Went to Bainbridge, got out, took a train to New York City, and took a Greyhound bus home to Saugerties. Arrived about 3 o'clock in the morning, and as I was going up the street, I saw the light in George Broom's saloon still open. And a good friend of mine who had been in the Navy but was sectioned out when he got his hair cut, he had a great big scar under his hair where his sister had hit him with a brick. And they were afraid to let him in the Navy. They were afraid if he got near any kind of concussion that he would just black out. So he never got in the Navy, and he was home all the time. And a great guy, and a good close personal friend. But Joe was tending bar, and was still at the bar. He locked the front door, and I banged on the door. I said, "Open up this goddamn place and give me a beer." God, we had a great reunion. And I waited until about 5 o'clock and went home, woke my parents up, had breakfast, and then we all went to the Memorial Day parade.
Did they know you were coming home?
They knew that I had left California, and somehow they found out about the train wreck, and they were scared to death because I didn't contact them. But it was in, as they say, it was in all the papers.
Yeah.
Anyway, went to the Memorial Day parade, and it was the best day in the year to get home.
I could see your mom as you show up, and he's here. Yeah.
I even had a little mustache.
Yeah.
I had grown on the ship coming home. Salty Marine, trained killer. Triumphant hero returns to hometown. Crowds turn out, parade held. Medals passed out.
Yeah. And still your mama's baby boy.
Yeah, right. Don't forget to make your bed.
I know you're married.
Yeah, my good wife came in there a few months ago. I don't know where she went.
And what is your wife's name?
Eileen.
Eileen.
We've been married 25 years.
Her maiden name?
Drost.
Drost. Oh, for heaven's sakes. I knew some Drost in Anderson.
Eileen was born in Manhattan, and we were married in 1980. She had been a model in New York, ended up working for a clothing manufacturer, and became their New England representative, and traveled around the country peddling clothes to women's outlet stores. The line was called Wilroy, and was very successful at it. Made a lot of money. Drove a nice new Cadillac every year, and we had a good time. We did a lot of traveling.
How'd you first meet her?
I had a house at a lake, and that I had built, and she came and rented the house next door. I actually knew her 10 years before we decided that this was more than just a friendship. Anyway.
So you married the girl next door, huh?
In a way, you could say that.
Yeah. It's just for the record, as I told you before we started, I was very impressed by the way that when I called you, you were completely prepared for what I was going to say, because she had taken down the information and had passed it on to you, and I don't get that very often. And
Well, if she shows up, you can tell her.
Yeah.
But I will tell her.
Any children?
Son, Scott,
Okay.
lives in Atlanta, married, has 3 children. The youngest is Madeline, named after my mother. Scott was with BBD&O right out of college. He went to the University of North Carolina. Then he went with a couple of other agencies, advertising agencies. Then he went with Sprint, and he was a mover and shaker with Sprint. Went to their headquarters in Kansas City for a while, then came back to Atlanta, where they had started as vice president of Simmons Mattress. He'd been recruited. And he stayed with them about 2 years and didn't like the way it was going. In the process of deciding what he was going to do, it fell into consulting. So now he's a consultant for Sprint, where he used to work,
Sure.
and Ing, I-N-G.
Okay. Sure.
And his wife works. She sells radio time for Cox Broadcasting and is very successful. 3 good kids.
That's good.
I have a daughter in Seattle who went to Syracuse and graduated and joined the Peace Corps, went out to the Philippines, was down in an island near Mindanao, and the insurgents threatened to kill all the Peace Corps people if they didn't leave. And there were hundreds of Peace Corps people throughout the Philippines. She was evacuated overnight, had to leave some of her gear behind. Came back to the States, retrained, and went to Ecuador for 2 years. She now works for the city of Seattle in personnel work. We don't see her as much as we'd like to, but
Sure.
I think this maybe next summer we're going to take an Alaskan cruise and pick her up on the way.
It's always good when the kids are doing well.
Yeah, knock on wood.
And
You know, I said I worked for a private school for 28 years. I did public relations and fundraising and publications and stuff like that. And no matter what social level the kid came from, whether it was very rich, moderately rich, dirt poor, didn't make any difference. You could get into trouble if you didn't have a good basis in your life before you got there. And people used to send their problem kids to a school like that. We were a boarding school. 300 boys, 200 girls. And, you know, you send us a bum, you're going to get a bum back in 4 years.
Yeah.
Because, you know, we'll teach them how to study. We'll teach them a little about Greek history and maybe teach them how to speak French and do the new math. But it's not going to change him. If he was a thief when he came here, he's going to be a thief when he leaves. I'll tell you one final story. There was a kid who was very bright. His name was Mark Schroeder. And I had a friend who was chairman of the history department. We used to socialize together. One time, Ted said to me, "You know, the smartest kid in this school is Mark Schroeder." I said, "Really?" He said, he's just a whiz." And I said, "I see him." And I said, "He's a slob." And Ted said, "I agree, he is a slob." And he's just so disorganized. So my office was on a corridor where the kids would go by every once in a while. And one morning I looked out, and Schroeder is standing there looking at a bulletin board. He has sneakers on, and they're both untied. I said, "Schroeder, come in here." So he came in, very polite, you know. I said, "Schroeder, I hear stories about how screwed up you are. What the hell's wrong with you? You mean you can't tie your shoes? You got to start somewhere in the morning. Let's start with the shoes. You know, that's pretty basic. You got to walk before you can go anywhere, and you ought to have your shoes tied. Do you agree?" "Yes." I said, "All right, from now on your way to class, you stop here, and you show me that they're tied." "Yes, sir." So he did. And after a while, we kind of became friends. You know, it was funny. He'd stop and say, "Hey, Mr. Whitaker, look." "Okay, go on, Mark. You don't have to come in." Okay, now Mark is a 5th former. That's a junior in high school. Mark goes home for his summer vacation. He comes back to us for his 6th form year as a senior. He graduates. He goes to Trinity College in Hartford. He's there about 3 months, and they arrest him for murdering his grandfather during his summer vacation.
Are you kidding?
His mother was a wacko,
Yeah.
and there is a book out called At Mother's Request. It was also a television show. Mark killed his grandfather at his mother's request.
Oh, for heaven's sakes.
She was after her grandfather's money.
Oh, gee.
So, as I say, you look at all these, there were 500 kids, and they turned over new ones every month, every year. Always problems. Some great successes too. Fairleigh Dickinson of Fairleigh Dickinson University and Dickinson Drugs. Fairleigh Jr. had his son, Terry, and a daughter. Both came to Kent School. Daughter did fine. Terry did fine, but it was kind of weird. He went to Columbia University, great college. There a month, overdosed, died on drugs. Now that kid had all the money you could possibly ask for. Bang, it's all over. And there's all kinds of permutations of that story. Yeah.
That's got to drive you crazy. I mean, all the guys that fought for their lives in a situation like Okinawa, and these kids that just give their lives away.
Oh yeah.
That
You try not to think about stuff like that.
Yeah. We've had a very interesting life.
Yeah, you know, if I had known I was going to live so long, I'd have taken better care of myself. I'm rather surprised to celebrate my 80th. I thought my life was going to end on March 17th. And I was mightily surprised when they declared this island secured. And I was going to walk off there on my own steam. I didn't know what the future held, but at least I got through that one. And then the rest is, you know, they drop the bomb and the war's over and you go home. You get to go home. And you know, so many guys, I could sit here and give you 30 names of KIAs. And as I said before, almost everybody I knew was wounded. At least once. I got involved with a short round, what they call friendly fire.
Right.
And I knew it was artillery from our side. Just suddenly, boom. It landed close to me, enough to rattle my chimes, gave me a bloody nose and bleeding out of my ears, broke my rifle, and I staggered off the top of this hill and I ran into the battalion doctor. And he said, "You got to get out of here." He put me on an Amtrak, and within 10 minutes I was on a hospital ship. By the time I got back there, I could hear again. Went up, and the doctor looked me over and he said, you all right? I said, "Well, I guess so." But I said, for a while I thought I was, you know, I just didn't know what had happened. I still don't know what happened. He said, "Well, hang around, have something to eat, come back." So I did. Piled up a plate of food. I ate about 2 mouthfuls. I couldn't eat anymore. I went back and he said, "Go back." So I got in another Amtrak and went back, and I got back to my company before they even knew I was gone. I mean, and there's something there to be said about the medical care we all received. Not only were the corpsmen right there with us and deserve a lot of credit for their valor and their skills, but the battalion aid station wasn't far behind, and the regimental aid station wasn't far behind, and the division hospital wasn't far behind, and there were 2 hospital ships right offshore, the Comfort and the Solace, I think they were called, white, big red crosses on them. And you know, I had many friends who left the island, went to Saipan, spent months in a hospital. Jimmy White, a friend from Oklahoma, took a Nambu machine gun shot right through the legs, through the calves. He was in Saipan. Carl may have been in Saipan, or maybe it was Guam.
I believe he was.
Yeah, and I think he went directly home.
He
Some of
wasn't
those
there
guys,
very long.
yeah, some of those guys came back and joined us in China.
What about some of the KIAs? I don't like the idea that they're just a number. That they were a human being, and they were. I'd like to know a little something about them and some of their names, if you could.
You want to know the names of some people killed? Dan Torres.
And what you would know about them. I mean,
well, Dan Torres was in my tent on Guadalcanal. Don Thompson was in my tent on Guadalcanal. Lieutenant Bean, the guy that led us up the Sugar Loaf Hill, killed, got the Navy Cross. His runner, Bill Hulick, lives in Castleton, New York. And I recently talked to Bill. I said, there's conflicting stories about how Bean was killed. He said, I was with him. He said, I saw the back of his jacket come out 3 times. He said he was shot right through the chest with a machine gun. And he said he died instantly. So then I knew he'd received the Navy Cross. And I tried to find the citation. I looked and looked and looked and looked. Finally, I uncovered it. And I read the citation. It doesn't even come close. It says he was wounded, and he got in a foxhole, and he directed his troops, even though wounded. It was a very heroic account. Yeah. But he actually got killed, stupidly, I might add, because he had been shot in the face the day before, and he should have been out of there. But a good friend of his, a lieutenant, was killed, and he was a little wacko. And he couldn't talk, had his face bandaged, and he had been a professional football player for the Detroit Lions. And he just had so much gung-ho in him that it affected his head, and he just said, follow me. And we went up that hill, and he got killed. And not that it's funny, but he didn't need to be killed. He might have survived it, although the casualty rate among officers was awesome. My friend Bob Shear, for whom I was the runner, was the only officer in our company not killed or wounded. And that includes the 10 officers who went ashore on April 1st, plus probably another 10 replacements. I mean, we had lieutenants arrive and last a day. Wow. But anyway.
Well, I'm curious, is there anything in life you haven't gotten around to doing that you wished you could have done?
Yeah, I tried to get my wife. I always liked motorcycles, and I owned a few. And when we came down here, I sold the last one I had in Oriental, North Carolina, where we lived. So it came to I think it was my 75th birthday, and Eileen said, what do you want for Christmas? I said, I always wanted a Harley Davidson motorcycle. She said, oh, I'll take that under advice. You know what she gave me? A yellow wheelbarrow. And it's out there in the garage. You can see it. I'll show it to you. That's my Harley. She calls it my Harley. She said,
she loves you.
Yeah, if you think you're going to go riding on a motorcycle at 75 years old, you have another thing coming.
Well, just for the record, you sure don't look 80 to me.
Amen.
Well, thank you. Thank you very much. I think I owe that to my parents. They were both youthful looking.
You owe a lot to your parents. Good parents. Well, we always give our veterans a chance to say a few words for posterity. You got any words of wisdom you'd like to share with folks?
Stay off the skyline. That has a lot of meaning for Marines. They instantly know what it means. Yeah. But it also means be careful. Yeah. Don't expose yourself. Don't do stupid things. Yeah. Do your duty. But be careful. And don't do anything stupid. People get in cars every day and go down the road 90 miles an hour. Yeah. That's stupid. Yeah. And it happens every day. Yeah. People go offshore in boats, drown. Take a little fishing boat and go out, 20 miles offshore. Yeah. A wave comes along, they fall out of the boat and it kills them. It happens all the time down here. Huh. They go out, the 5 women went out last week on Sullivan Island to go swimming. They were all about 35, 40 years old. One of them gets caught in a rip tide, then drowns.
Yeah. What a waste.
You got to be careful. Yeah. You got to be careful. Good luck is the result of good planning. And know what you're doing. Look ahead. Project.
Right. That's very wise. Well, Private Whitaker, I want to thank you for this interview and for your service to our country.
Thank you, sir.
Appreciate it.
And thank you.